you ever worked with or been the kind of leader who will stay late, fix everything, take on way too much, and then quietly resent everyone for not doing the same? Or the leader who says, I'm doing this for you, but somehow you always end up feeling guilty, indebted, or controlled? Today, we're exploring the martyr and savior archetype in leadership. And this is the person who sacrifices themselves for the mission or the team. And then over time, they start to use that sacrifice as a form of power. And so we're going to look at Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. We're going to look at Tony Stark from the Marvel Universe. And last but certainly not least, definitely my favorite of the three, Michael Scott from The Office. I'm Jen, and on this channel, we unpack leadership through story, pop culture, everyday life, travel, etc., so that you can recognize these patterns in fiction and in your own career. And so in this episode, we're going to trace how Dany, Tony, and Michael slide into martyrdom and savior mode. We're going to name the dark leadership dynamics underneath, especially how care can become control. And then we're going to talk about how to lead with heart without burning out or emotionally hijacking your team. So let's start off with their stories. Daenerys begins as the vulnerable exile. She's a displaced princess, sold into marriage with no real power of her own. And so her leadership arc starts with genuine liberation. She frees the Unsullied. She breaks chains.
The breaker of chains.
In multiple cities. She rallies people with a vision of ending oppression. And her followers love her because she has suffered herself. She risks herself to free others, and she genuinely believes in a better world. But over time, something shifts, and the story in her head becomes, I'm the one who will break the wheel. I see what others can't. I must be the one to rule. Anyone who doesn't align isn't just an opponent, they're an obstacle to justice. And so we see the martyr-savior patterns like self-sacrifice as identity. She endures loss after loss and sees that as proof she's destined to rule. No one else can be trusted. She centralizes more and more power in herself. And the ends justify the means. By the final season, there's mass violence, which becomes necessary purification. And so what happens is that her care for the oppressed slowly mutates into, I know what's best for you, even if it costs your life, not just hers. So Tony Stark starts as a billionaire, playboy, genius, weapons manufacturer. His turning point is realizing that his creations are destroying people's lives and that he's responsible for real human suffering. And so his leadership shift is sincere. He puts on the Iron Man suit. He risks his life. He tries to make things right. But once he steps into the protector of Earth role, he can't step out. The martyr-savior patterns show up as hyper-responsibility, right? Like he believes it's personally on him to protect the planet. It's control disguised as care. You know, he creates Ultron, an AI intended to keep the world safe that almost destroys it. I'll take the hit. He constantly throws himself into danger, knowing that it devastates the people close to him. And so underneath his I have to do this is a belief that if he doesn't solve it, no one will. And if he ever stops, the worst will happen, and it will be his fault. His self-sacrifice is real, and it feeds his identity. I'm the one who saves you, even from the messes that I helped to create. I know what you're thinking. At first glance, Michael Scott seems too goofy to belong with Dany and Tony, but he's a perfect everyday version of the same archetype. Michael calls his office a family. He wants to be everyone's best friend. He overinvests emotionally in his employees' lives. And his martyr savior story sounds like, I care more than corporate does, or I'm protecting my people from the system. I'm the only one who really understands this group. But in practice, his care often becomes intrusive, right? He's crossing boundaries and forcing intimacy. He's controlling, right? Guilt-tripping people who want to leave or set limits. He's also needy. He expects his employees to meet his emotional needs. And so think about the moments when someone tries to transfer or set a boundary or not attend a forced fun event. Michael responds with genuine hurt, guilt, or subtle punishment. And so it is martyrdom, but just on a much smaller scale, He says things like, after everything I've done for you, you're going to leave me? I thought we were a family. And so while these three characters are very different, they share a common pattern. They genuinely care. They feel a personal responsibility to protect or save others. That responsibility becomes their identity. And then over time, they begin to overstep, control, and sometimes harm the very people that they think they're saving. And so let's talk about why that happens and what it looks like in real-world leadership. At the heart of the martyr-savior pattern is this belief that if I don't carry this, everything will fall apart. And for Danny, if I don't free them, no one will. For Tony, if I don't protect the world from threats, no one else can. And for Michael, if I don't keep this office together like a family, everyone will be miserable. And so this belief leads to taking on more and more responsibility, centralizing decision-making, distrusting others' ability to handle things. It sounds noble, it feels noble, but it quietly removes other people's agency. And so they're not partners, they're recipients of your heroism. Often the savior story is driven by older pain. For Danny, it's exile, abuse, and loss. She knows what it's like to be powerless, so she becomes all-powerful for others. And then Tony's got that guilt over past harm, the fear of losing the people that he loves, and a sense that he must atone forever. And then Michael, who has this deep loneliness, a desire to be loved and chosen, and the office as a substitute family. And so when these wounds go unexamined, what happens is leadership becomes a way to regulate your own pain. The mission isn't just about the cause, it's about soothing your own fear, shame, or loneliness. And that's when care turns dark. I'm doing this for you is also, I need you to keep me from feeling my own emptiness. And another key pattern is sacrifice becomes a form of moral superiority. Danny's lost so much that she believes she has the right to decide the fate of others. Tony constantly endangers himself, which makes it hard for others to question him. And Michael does emotional labor that nobody asked for and then uses it as leverage. And so the unspoken message becomes, after everything I've done for you, after all I've given up, how dare you question me, leave, disagree, set a boundary? In leadership, this can show up as guilt-tripping teams, right? I'm here all night for you. You can't even stay an extra hour. Expecting loyalty not based on fairness or clarity, but on the leader's pain and effort. And then as well, treating dissent as betrayal rather than feedback. And so the final twist in this archetype is where it gets truly dark. I'm protecting you slides into I know what's best for you, which then becomes I get to decide for you. So for Danny, I will free you from tyrants turns into I will burn this city for your own good. For Tony, I'll protect Earth turns into unilateral decisions like Ultron. No consent, massive risk. And then for Michael, I care about you turns into you owe me emotional intimacy and loyalty because we're family. And so at that point, service is no longer service. It's control dressed up as care. And this is where a lot of good leaders quietly cross a line. Their intentions are really noble, but their impact is damaging. So the martyr and savior archetype isn't necessarily about villains with bad intentions. It's about leaders who don't know how to stop sacrificing, who don't know how to let others carry weight, and who don't see how much control they're exerting for everyone else's own good. So let's talk about how to lead with heart without falling into that trap. If any part of you hears this and thinks, oh, that might be me, Here are 3 very gentle but direct questions. Number 1, where am I over responsible? What am I carrying that could be shared? Where do I step in before anyone else even has a chance? What would happen if I let something be good enough instead of perfect? Number 2, what am I afraid will happen if I stop saving everyone? That they'll fail? That I'll be exposed as not needed? Or that I'll have to sit with my own fear, guilt, and loneliness? And 3, where might my care actually be limiting others? Am I rescuing people from consequences they need to learn from? Am I speaking for them instead of with them? Do I feel secretly annoyed when they don't appreciate my sacrifices? Healthier leadership for former saviors looks like setting very clear scopes. What you're responsible for and what you are not. Supporting people instead of rescuing them, and then letting others wrestle, struggle, and grow, even if it's uncomfortable to watch. If you've worked under a Danny, a Tony, or a Michael type, you might feel both grateful and trapped. Guilty for wanting to leave, but also confused about whether you owe them something. And so a few things to remember. Number 1, care doesn't cancel out control. Someone could have done real good and be crossing your boundaries now. You're allowed to name both realities. Number 2, you don't owe loyalty in exchange for someone else's overgiving. If a leader chooses to overextend, that's their choice. You're not obligated to match their level of sacrifice with your obedience. And number 3, you're allowed to step out of the savior story. You don't have to be the grateful rescued one forever. You can say, thank you for what you did, but I still need something different now. The healthiest leaders will feel the sting and still respect that. The unhealthiest will guilt trip you, and that tells you everything you need to know. So today we looked at Daenerys Targaryen, Tony Stark, and Michael Scott as 3 faces of the martyr and savior leader. How genuine care can slowly turn into control when our identity is built on sacrifice. And how both leaders and followers can step out of that cycle with more clarity and self-respect. In the next episode of this Dark Leadership series, we're going to the holy brands and false prophets archetype. We're going to talk about leaders and organizations that preach values, goodness, or purpose, while also operating from a completely different reality behind the scenes. So I want you to think President Snow from the Hunger Games, Dumbledore from Harry Potter, or even the Jedi Council. Now, I want to hear from you. If you recognize these traits in a leader that you've worked with or for yourself, drop a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.